It's the Kyle Heimann Show on Redeemer Radio.
I mean, we all know in our mind that, like, whatever we've done, the Lord's going to forgive us. But I think until we've done something that we probably never imagined ourselves doing, accepting that that's happened, but yet the Lord is forgiving us.
It's time for Morning Jolt with Sister Ignatia Henneberry from the Sisters of St. Francis of Perpetual Adoration.
Wake up!
Sister Ignatia, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Good.
How are you, Kyle?
I'm excellent.
Yeah?
Yeah. So you've shared that you have a story about your mom, and I have not heard the story, but the anticipation has been building up.
I figured it would be fun for you to hear it the first time.
Yeah.
On air.
Yeah.
So should I just go for it?
Sure. Remind us your family background. You're one of two?
Two, yes. So mom and dad live back in Syracuse, New York. And then I have an older brother. He's 3 years older than me. We all grew up in a small town.
Okay.
So love each other very much. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Get along.
Yes. Yeah, I would say so.
They haven't outcasted you for becoming a sister.
Yeah. Yeah. Quite proud. Fun fact, my mom actually, when I go home and we always have to go to the grocery store, she does not allow me to push the grocery cart because it covers up my habit too much. Yeah.
That's great.
So they're very supportive. Yeah. So, I just shared it with Kyle a little while ago that I had a story. So, especially, as political climates have changed and everything, I've been thinking about the issue of abortion, but also like in the church. So I just felt it was like helpful and pertinent to like be able to share a real story about abortion. So my mom, when I believe she was 19, at the time she was like living outside of the church, and she found herself pregnant, unmarried, obviously, had not met my dad yet. And I remember her telling me that, like, recounting the story to me and just saying, like, I can't, be bound to this guy. Like, she just felt trapped and scared. And 19 was kind of estranged from my grandparents. That didn't feel like she could go back home. And I just felt like an abortion was like her only way out. She felt trapped. So she did have an abortion at that young age, and then she joined the Air Force in order to leave town. Like, she just like had to start over.
Okay.
Basically. And it was in that environment, which sounds odd that like, you go into the Air Force, and that's where God like led her back in that, because she was in basic training. Basic training, you have no control over your life, except if you go to church. So once you're on the grounds of the church, you don't have to march anymore.
Okay.
You have some freedom, even just to like walk normally. So
Right.
That was like her one chance to like have a break from basic training. And so she started going back to church, and that pain and that just like emptiness that she felt had room to speak, and for her to like come to grips with like what happened. And she has said like multiple times, so now my mom shares her testimony, and she said like, so one thing to not tell a woman is to say like, you didn't know what you were doing. And she knew what she did. And I think that's probably true for a lot of women, that they know in their heart like what has happened,
Right.
At the very least, like that's my child, and I killed them. So
Certainly some do not. Some have believed what they've been told, that this is just a clump of cells, this is not a big deal. And those that do know probably have justified why this is okay for one reason or another.
Yeah, I think there's
like we do with all sin, right?
Some walls that have
if
gone
we know
up.
something's wrong, and we do it anyway, it's because we've justified like this is okay for me to do for some reason.
Yeah. I think she was like, looking for like the right environment and like person to talk to about it. Like, she didn't want somebody to tell her that it was okay. Like,
right.
She wasn't looking for that person. So I think maybe some people do look for that person to tell them that it was okay. My mom was not looking for that person.
Yeah.
So when in this process of coming back to the church at the parish that was on base or close to the base, was a wonderful priest, who was really involved in the young adults that were there, and she felt comfortable and like decided to come back to confession. And she, in that moment, like just felt like this is unforgivable. Like, how can the Lord forgive what I've done? And, he being just a good priest. And like, we all know in our mind that like whatever we've done, the Lord's going to forgive us. But I think until we've done something that we probably never imagined ourselves doing, accepting that that's happened, but yet the Lord is forgiving us. And I remember, like, I think it was like the first time that she told me, her whole story. I think she rode her bike back from that confession and just like felt so free, and had not felt that in a long time. So like actually had experience of like God's mercy for her.
Did she say how long it had been from 19 until?
Oh, well, and like before 19 when she had even... Oh, from 19 until when she had her confession, I don't know. So
it was years. Probably.
Yes, it was years because 19, she married my dad when she was like 24, 25. So like in there somewhere.
Yeah.
So how long she had been carrying that, I'm not sure, but that was like the first step, receiving God's mercy, opening her heart again. Because I think a lot of women, the sin of an abortion is closed up in the inside for a long time, decades. Some don't ever tell their spouses that they've had an abortion, and that is crippling. And the Lord doesn't want you to live that way. So she continued that, like, coming back to the church, a reversion. Met my father while she was on base in their like the youth group at the parish. Got married. I always thought growing up we had a beautiful family, like, and also part of her story was that like once my brother and I are like just like kids, she just remembered like, no, I have other kids. Like I have another child, and I can't ignore that I feel the loss of that child still. So she then sought out post-abortive ministries and healing. She went to a retreat for Project Rachel, and the first one that she did go to, still holding on to like what I've done, and like, how can the Lord really forgive me? Like that kind of pain. And she saw a young woman who was also attending this retreat needing help. Like this young woman needed a couple of people to like support her walking into the building, and she was just wrecked. Like she, sobbing and crying, just, again, like
not being dragged in against her will, but
correct.
She wanted to go, but it was having a hard time even doing it.
She couldn't move. This can't be taken away. It can't be undone, which is true. But like that the Lord's not gonna, what could he possibly do? Or like, why would he forgive me? And my mom remembers looking at that young woman and knowing like a grace from God, like knowing the first thought was God does not want that for that woman. I know that
pain.
Yeah. She can see in another person, like that's not meant for you. And then making that connection of like, okay, if I know that that's not meant for her, then he does not want me to live this way either.
Right.
So just like that grace of knowing almost by like a negation, like that's not what he wants for me. So just her like then committing to a process of healing, and then that like leading her into like helping other women healing from the effects of abortion. And I've told her multiple times, but I'm just like proud of her for like doing that. Because if we think about like, there's a lot of statistics out there, but like on the low end, 25% of women that you see have had an abortion. And that statistic doesn't really change in the Catholic Church. And if you want to fact check me, fine. But the reality is, like, if you are a priest or if you're a parishioner, the safe thing to do is in your parish looking around and saying, like, okay, maybe 25% of the women in this room perhaps have had an abortion.
Yeah.
So that changed me, how I thought about people that I see, that I talk to. Yeah. So, yeah, why I'm so proud of my mom for, like, speaking is because so many women don't.
Right.
But they need to. And so, like, they need somebody that knows what that feels like to have gone on this journey to say, like, no, there is healing for you.
Yeah.
There's life. Yeah, I just think that's an area in the church where we, definitely need to talk more about.
So I think sometimes because of the gravity of the action, of the sin, we are so passionate about being anti-abortion and explaining why and what happens and showing images of it and things like that. What do you think pro-life people do that we should stop doing because it could do so much harm to some people? Yes, it might do some good, but the harm outweighs the good.
I think some, like, words. I mean, I even go back. So my mom didn't share this story with me until I was, how old was I? 21, 22.
Okay.
Maybe. She told my brother and I at the same time when she was, going to be doing more testimonies.
Yeah.
And so I go back to, like, being in high school. Like, I grew up being pro-life, knowing it was wrong.
Yeah.
My mom worked for the Crisis Pregnancy Center. It was just, like, part of our life. And I had, like, all the pro-life t-shirts and stuff.
Right.
So, like, I mean, they're well-intentioned, but, like, maybe I probably would, knowing now what I do, I probably wouldn't have worn a shirt that said abortion is homicide. It's true. And so I think there's, like, maybe at least, like, two sets of women out there that are, like, I guess hardened in that, like, if I had an abortion, it was the right thing to do. You can't convince me otherwise. Like, well, they need Jesus first and foremost before you start, like, debating about abortion. And then I think the other group, probably more like my mom, who, like, knew the church was right in their heart of hearts, like, know Jesus, but have these walls up.
Yeah.
So that message isn't going to get to either of those people.
Right.
So I think, there is, like, a place to talk about, like, what abortion is, like, rationally and, like, objectively. Even my own sisters in my community, or just, like, in the pro-life movement, say, like, who could do something like that? So I think we should remember, who could do something like that? The woman next to you could do something like that.
Yeah.
You could do something like that. So I think, with the gravity of the sin, what it really is, we shouldn't lose that reality. But let's all remember that we're all capable of evil.
Yeah,
we're all capable of evil. I know that we're not trying to do this when we say, like, how could that happen? That it gets just, it does, like, boggle the mind. But in saying that, it's almost as if, like, well, I would never do that.
Right.
I could never picture myself doing that. Well, of course. And so I think just, like, some, like, sensitivity in some of the things that we say, like, have in your mind, like, okay, somebody around me perhaps has had an abortion, so I should talk as if I'm talking to somebody that has had an abortion.
Yeah. You mentioned Project Rachel. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and how that might be helpful for somebody?
So on our diocesan website, there's links, but if you just, like, Google Project Rachel, Fort Wayne, South Bend. So Project Rachel has a lot of resources for women that have had an abortion in their past. The primary thing, I think, is our retreats. And, like, it's not like a one-time retreat. Like, women have to keep coming back because even that first step to going to your first retreat is really difficult. And that might be the first time that you've ever told anyone.
Right.
So you can't deal with it in one weekend, and that's okay. So, like, building some relationships and having people walk with you and keep going back. So, it is a beautiful ministry. And so, my mom helps out with Project Rachel retreats, can share her testimony when she's, with these women who have either had an abortion 6 months ago, had an abortion 30 years ago.
Or multiple.
Multiple. The ministry that they do is, really important. Also, don't hesitate to go to another diocese. So I get like
right.
my mom's first retreat, she went to another diocese to go to the retreat because like I get like there's a lot of fear of like what if you're involved in the Catholic Church and you're like no one could ever know like
right.
this. Yeah,
I'm sure everything is anonymous.
Yes,
anyway,
of course.
But I mean, just like confession. You may want to go to a different priest,
right?
But your priest isn't going to tell anybody,
right?
You don't have to worry about that.
Correct.
He's not going to judge you, think of you differently,
right? For your own peace of mind, if you want. Yeah. So,
is there an order that you think is more practical, like doing a retreat like that, or talking with somebody before going to confession, or go to confession first before a retreat like that?
I think,
or does it matter?
I think it doesn't matter. Yeah, I think,
whatever you're more comfortable with as a first step.
I think the most important thing is that that you are taking steps and that you are nurturing that like belief that Jesus does want to forgive you and does love you. Like if whatever it is that you can do to keep yourself open to that, I think all of the above have to happen.
Yeah.
But I think as long as the healing happens, I mean...
And there might even be confession available at the retreat.
Oh, they're always... Yes, they always have a chaplain.
Two birds with one stone.
Exactly. And then one of the... Like, a beautiful thing that they do... I'm not sure if it's every retreat, but a common practice in the retreat is also to name the child that was aborted. Because that is your child. And as a person, they have a name. You have to also grieve that loss.
Right.
So that's been also powerful for me to know that like, I have a sibling. There's actually in the mother house, we have this like, stone floor. And as I walk out of chapel in the front, there's like this little like divot on the ground, but it's like in the shape of, like the little baby feet pin that you wear. It's like in that shape, like on the ground.
Like intentionally?
No, it's like, it's, if I look closely at it, perhaps it doesn't even look like little baby feet, but like that's what I think. Like that's what I think as every time I walk by it is like, oh, there's baby feet, and I know like my mom has named my brother. I mean, he's you ask the Lord like to know who this person is and the name, and like so I always like think of that and ask Him to pray for me. So I think that's an important part of the healing too. So all that there's a lot to that healing process, but that's one element, I guess.
And I suppose even if the retreat is far away or a weekend that you can't go or you've got, can't get anybody to watch your kids for you, whatever, I'm sure the people that are putting on the retreat would be a good resource to talk to of, who would be a good person to reach out to or books to read or, maybe if you can't do the retreat, you could meet with somebody in the evening.
Oh, for sure.
Or for lunch or whatever. I'm sure that's a great resource.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, my mom has made many phone calls, which are also like, discreet and anonymous. So like, any way that you're able to like, to reach out, that's what they're there for. They want to, they just want to walk with you and hear your story. And
What are your thoughts on telling your kids about it? You said your mom told you when you were 21.
Yeah.
Did that seem late? Did you kind of wish she had said something earlier, or does that seem like a good time? You're an adult.
I felt it was a good time, and I think other things that have happened in your parents' life, I don't think you're ready. Like we think our parents are perfect and great, and you probably should think that. And until you become an adult, so I don't think I can project my like 21-year-old self back onto like my 16-year-old self and say like, oh, I would have reacted fine. Yeah, I doubt it. So I think I'm like grateful that I was an adult. When my mom told me, I mean, to be honest, you have to go through the whole like, wait, you raised me to be pro-life, to think that this was wrong. But I was at the maturity level to understand, at least in part, my mom's story and like what she went through. That like, she wasn't lying to me. I didn't like grow up on some pretense, that like I received the fruit of her own resurrection story. Like I received the fruit of that in growing up. So like being grateful for that. I think sometimes the hardest hurdle for women to like share their story is to tell their family, because it is so secret, and you're like, what are they going to think of me?
Yeah.
All of those things. So being on the other side of that, I would say like your child might have to go through like a process and like be upset or angry or sad or whatever. But they're going to love you, you know? Yeah. So I wouldn't.
Do you think it's necessary to tell them?
Not totally. I guess I think it depends on where you feel called to minister.
Yeah.
So if you feel called to participate in Project Rachel retreats and share your testimony in that situation, like it might not necessarily be pertinent to tell your kids because that's all like
private,
contained and private. But my mom goes and talks to, I know she does, permanent diaconate.
Okay.
Letting them know like, so you're going to go out and preach, and this is what some of the stories that are in the pews, like these women.
Yeah.
So that was a little more public. She's done an article for our Catholic newspaper. So I think it depends.
Probably be good that they hear it from you before the newspaper.
Exactly. So I think it's up to them, but I think, borne a lot of fruit in my life. So I'm thankful that she's told me.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, Project Rachel, just do a search for it or ask around. Priest. Talk to a priest. But also I think pro-life pregnancy centers could direct you toward something if you're not near a Project Rachel retreat. They're equipped to help with resources or counseling or things like that. So maybe that's another topic we could talk about. Yeah. Is pro-life pregnancy centers and the work of kind of leading up to the birth, helping with whatever resources women and men might need, but then also after the birth as well. So maybe we can talk about that as well.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, sister.
You're welcome. Thank you.
For show notes on this episode and to find more shows, visit kyleheimann.com. And until next time, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.